There is something happening to you right now that you haven't fully named yet, a shifting beneath the surface of your daily life, that you can feel at the very edges of your awareness. It is a strange and undeniable sense that the person you were even 6 months ago is becoming someone you can barely recognize, and that the world which once had the power to pull you down is somehow losing its grip. You did not come to this transmission by accident, and you certainly did not stumble here because an algorithm randomly selected you from a pool of millions. What happened when you arrived here is something so more precise than a digital calculation. Your field registered a match. Your frequency, that specific and irreplaceable signature of your consciousness, crossed a threshold, and this transmission was waiting on the other side of it. Stop for a moment and feel that truth. You have been in a deep, sometimes disorienting, and often exhausting process of becoming something that doesn't have a simple name yet. Part of what makes this journey so isolating is that the people around you, the ones still fully immersed in the noise and the fear of the old world, cannot see what is happening to you from the inside. They see someone who seems quieter lately, someone who has less tolerance for certain conversations, or someone who flinches at environments that used to feel normal. They don't have the language for what they are watching, but you do. You've been building that language piece by piece, and today something vital gets added to what you know. Today you receive the understanding that what you have been going through is not a breakdown. It is not a sign of increasing fragility or a disconnection from reality. It is your quantum halo activating. What you have been experiencing, the sudden waves of fatigue that no doctor can explain, the heightened awareness that makes a crowded room feel like a sonic assault, and the strange sense that you are being reorganized from the inside out, is actually your personal energy field restructuring itself. This is your quantum halo moving into a state of high-level coherence. In the old world, your field was set to a frequency range that picked up everything. You were like a radio receiver tuned to the entire band of human suffering, collective anxiety, and other people's chaos. You absorbed it because your boundaries were porous and your frequency was not yet stable enough to repel the static. But something has moved your internal dial. As your halo activates, it begins to vibrate at a wavelength that is fundamentally incompatible with low-frequency noise. This is why you feel so different. You are literally no longer calibrated to the world you used to live in. And here is the truth that will change your entire perspective. Once this restructuring completes and your halo locks into its new frequency, you become untouchable. Not untouchable in the sense of being cold or isolated, but in the most literal, energetic sense. What vibrates below your new frequency simply cannot reach you anymore. It cannot attach itself to your nervous system. It cannot drain your vitality, and it cannot corrupt your signal. You are becoming a being that low-frequency chaos slides off of like water off light. This is what you were detected for, and this is why the old world is desperately trying to pull you back before the lock is permanent. Consider the exhaustion you've been feeling lately. It isn't the kind of tiredness that a night of sleep can fix. It is a deep, cellular labor. Your body is working to house a higher voltage of consciousness, and that requires a massive amount of energetic resources. You are like an old building being rewired for a high-powered electrical system. The old fuses are blowing because they were never meant to handle the current that is now trying to flow through you. You might have felt like you were failing or falling behind because you couldn't keep up with the frantic pace of the world. But the field wants you to know that you were actually being slowed down, so the rewiring could be completed safely. You were being extracted from the noise so that your internal signal could be strengthened. Every moment you spent in solitude, every time you chose to stay home instead of joining the crowd, and every instance where you chose silence over mindless chatter was an act of frequency preservation. You were instinctively protecting your activating halo while it was still in its most vulnerable stage of reorganization. Now, that phase is coming to an end, and you are entering the stage of stabilization. The disorientation is giving way to a new kind of clarity, a quiet authority that doesn't need to shout to be felt. You are starting to notice that your presence alone changes the room. not because of what you say, but because of the stability of the field you are carrying. The people in your life might be reacting to this change with confusion or even subtle hostility. When your frequency shifts, it acts like a mirror to those around you. If they are anchored in fear or lack, your growing coherence makes their own static feel more obvious to them. They might try to provoke you, or they might try to use guilt to drag you back down to the frequency where they felt comfortable with you. It is important that you realize their reaction is not about you. It is a symptom of the dissonance between your activating halo and their stagnant field. You are no longer providing the same matching energy that used to fuel their dramas. This is part of becoming untouchable. You are learning that you can witness their struggle without absorbing it. You can see the storm without becoming the rain. In the past, you would have been swept up in their frequency, losing your center in an attempt to help them or please them. But the activated halo creates a boundary of resonance, because there is no longer a match for that specific type of chaos within you. It simply passes through your space without leaving a mark. You are becoming a sovereign observer, a navigator of the absolute who understands that your primary responsibility is the maintenance of your own frequency. As this halo continues to lock in, you will find that your relationship with time and manifestation changes as well. In the lower frequencies, everything feels like effort. You have to push, force, and grind to make things happen. But as your field becomes more coherent, you enter the state of flow. You start to notice that the right information arrives exactly when you need it. The right people appear without you searching for them, and the solutions to your problems manifest before you even have a chance to worry. This is because a coherent field has a massive gravitational pull. You are no longer chasing your reality, you are collapsing it from the field of infinite potential. The quantum field responds to your signal with perfect precision. If your halo is broadcasting a clear, stable, and high-frequency note, the universe has no choice but to provide the matching circumstances. You are moving from the physics of struggle to the physics of resonance. This is the ultimate freedom. You are being shown that you are not a passenger in this reality, but the instrument through which reality selects itself. The activation you are feeling is your graduation from the school of effort into the mastery of frequency. Everything you have endured, the loneliness, the confusion, the physical symptoms of the shift, has been leading to this specific threshold. You are standing at the gateway of a new way of being human. The old world is based on the assumption of scarcity, separation, and fear. And it is currently in a state of terminal destabilization because those foundations can no longer hold the incoming light. You, however, are being built on a different foundation. Your quantum halo is calibrated to the truth of abundance, unity, and sovereign power. This is why you feel like you no longer fit into the old systems. You weren't meant to fit. You were meant to outgrow them. You are the evidence that a higher frequency is possible, and your very existence is a transmission of that possibility to everyone whose field is ready to receive it. The process is almost complete. The restructuring is reaching its final stage. You are about to step into the world as a fully activated being, untouchable by the chaos, anchored in your own light and ready to navigate the absolute with an authority you have only ever dreamed of possessing. The lock is happening now. Feel the shift, recognize your power. You have arrived. To understand the mechanics of becoming untouchable, we must first dismantle the idea that your energy field is a passive bubble of light. It is, in fact, an active, oscillating architecture of potential that operates according to the immutable laws of resonance and coherence. When we speak of your quantum halo, we are describing the functional reality of your heart and brain working in perfect synchronicity. This is what the HeartMath Institute and researchers in bioelectromagnetism have documented for decades. Your heart is the primary generator of electromagnetic energy in your body, producing an electrical field 60 times greater in amplitude than that of your brain and a magnetic field up to 5,000 times stronger. This field is shaped like a torus, a continuous self-sustaining donut-shaped loop of energy that extends several feet beyond your physical skin. When you are in a state of stress, fear, or performance, This field becomes jagged, incoherent, and weak. It becomes a porous boundary that allows the external noise of the world to leak in and disrupt your internal equilibrium. But when you achieve heart-brain coherence, the waves of energy emitted by these two centers begin to move in a synchronized rhythmic pattern. They become a unified signal, and it is this unity that creates the shield. The reason you have felt so vulnerable in the past is not that you were weak, but that your field was decoherent. In physics, decoherence is the process by which a system loses its quantum properties because it has become too tangled with the noise of its environment. For years, you were so deeply enmeshed in the frequencies of other people's expectations, societal pressures, and collective anxieties that your own unique signature was drowned out. You were like a delicate instrument trying to play a masterpiece in the middle of a construction site. The noise didn't just bother you, it became part of your broadcast. But as your halo activates, you are learning the art of destructive interference. In wave mechanics, when two waves of the same frequency meet in a certain way, they can either strengthen each other or cancel each other out. By stabilizing your internal frequency at a high level of coherence, you effectively cancel out the low-frequency waves that attempt to enter your space. They cannot find a landing place within you because there is no matching resonance to receive them. This is the scientific reality of being untouchable. You aren't fighting the world. You are simply no longer participating in its chaos at a vibrational level. To illustrate this, I want to take you back to a story of a man named Elias, a lighthouse keeper who lived on a jagged, windswept coast where the storms were so violent they seemed to possess a conscious intent to destroy. Elias had tended his light for 40 years, and the villagers in the valley below often watched the lighthouse with a mixture of awe and terror. During the great eclipse storm, the winds were so fierce that the villagers climbed the path to Elias's door, begging him to dim the light. They believed that the sheer brilliance of the beacon was provoking the storm, drawing the lightning and the fury of the waves directly toward the tower. They told him that if he would only make himself smaller, if he would only allow the light to fade into a soft, unthreatening glow, the storm might pass them by. Elias looked at the frightened faces of his neighbors and gave them a truth that they weren't ready to hear. He told them that the light does not draw the storm. The light exists because the storm is already there. To dim the beacon would not protect the lighthouse. It would only ensure that every ship in the harbor lost its way home. Elias knew that the strength of the tower was not in its resistance to the wind, but in the unwavering frequency of its rotation. He didn't fight the storm. He simply remained the most stable thing in its presence. You are Elias, and your activating halo is the beacon. The people in your life who are currently uncomfortable with your change are like those villagers. They are governed by the logic of the old world, which says that the only way to be safe is to be small, to blend in, and to match the frequency of the surrounding chaos. They perceive your growing brilliance as a threat because it highlights the darkness they have chosen to live in. They want you to dim your light so they can feel comfortable in their own decoherence. But you must understand that your frequency is not an act of aggression. It is an act of sovereign service. By remaining untouchable, by refusing to lower your dial to match the static of the valley, you provide the only stable coordinate in their world. You are not separate from them because you are cold. You are separate from them because you have chosen to inhabit a different reality. The lighthouse does not apologize to the storm for being bright, and you must stop apologizing for the coherence you have worked so hard to achieve. The trap that many seekers fall into during this phase is the trap of performance. They think that being high vibe means they have to act a certain way, say the right spiritual phrases, or suppress their human emotions. This is not resonance. This is effort. Effort is a low-frequency state because it is born from the belief that you are not already enough. It is the vibration of trying, which is the cousin of lacking. When you try to be coherent, you are creating a jagged frequency. True coherence is a state of release. It is what happens when you stop layering the static of other people's definitions over the signal that was always there. Your quantum halo doesn't need to be built by your ego. It needs to be revealed by your presence. This requires a radical shift from doing to being. It requires you to sit in the center of your own field and recognize that the intelligence of the universe is already broadcasting through you. Your only job is to stop resisting the transmission. When you stop resisting, the heart and brain naturally align and the halo stabilizes without a single thought. This stability is what allows you to move from absorbing the world to witnessing it. Most people spend their lives absorbing every frequency they encounter. They walk into a room and pick up the tension. They watch the news and pick up the fear. They talk to a friend and pick up the exhaustion. This is a state of being a passenger in your own reality. But a navigator witnesses. When you witness, you are aware of the frequency, but you do not allow it to colonize your field. You see the anger in another person, but you do not become angry. You see the fear in the collective, but you do not become afraid. You are like the stone in the river. The water moves around you, it touches you, it even rushes over you, but you remain a stone. You do not become the water. This is the ultimate power of the activated halo. It gives you the capacity to be fully present to the suffering and chaos of the world without being consumed by it. You become a point of stillness in a turning world, and in that stillness you find the authority to actually change the field around you. The quantum field is always responding to the most stable frequency in any given environment. This is why a single coherent person can calm a room of 100 panicked people. It is why, when you stay anchored in your center, the difficult people in your life either begin to settle down, or they simply drift out of your orbit. They cannot maintain their incoherence in the presence of your steady signal. You are not doing anything to them. Your halo is simply performing its natural function of organizing the space. This is the secret of the untouchable state. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to explain yourself. And you don't have to win arguments. You only have to hold your frequency. The field will do the rest. The reorganization of your life that you've been witnessing, the sudden endings and the strange new beginnings, is the field responding to your new signal. It is clearing out the decoherence so that a new, more resonant reality can crystallize around you. Trust this process. Even when the storm is at its loudest, remember that the lighthouse was built for exactly this moment. You are not being tested, you are being calibrated. The dial is turning, the static is dropping, and the signal is becoming pure. You are becoming the navigator of your own absolute reality. The threshold you are crossing right now is the move from the architecture of potential into the architecture of actualization. You have spent long enough thinking about these concepts. Now your body is starting to live them. The heat you feel in your chest, the clarity in your mind, and the sudden weightlessness of your spirit are the physical evidence that the frequency lock is taking hold. You are no longer a victim of the world's weather. You are the sky in which the weather happens. And the sky is never diminished by the storm. It remains vast, silent, and perfect, no matter what moves through it. This is your true nature. This is your quantum halo, and it is fully irreversibly active now. You are ready to move into the final activation, where we will lock this frequency into your cellular memory and establish your new baseline as a sovereign master of the field. The final threshold you are standing before is not a place you visit. It is a version of yourself you finally decide to inhabit. This is the moment where the frequency stops being a concept you understand with your intellect and becomes the very ground upon which you walk. We are moving now from the theory of the field into the actual visceral activation of your halo, transitioning from the identity of a weary observer into the sovereign authority of a navigator. You have spent your entire life believing that you are the result of your history, that the events of your past have carved a permanent, unchangeable shape into the fabric of your soul. But the quantum field is here to tell you that your biography holds no authority over your current resonance. This is the state over story principle, and it is the most liberating law of the absolute. The field does not read your past, it reads your present frequency. It does not look at your old wounds or your perceived failures as permanent markers. It simply mirrors the signal you are emitting in this precise, singular moment. This means that your entire past narrative, the stories of who you were, what you lost, and why you feel limited, is nothing more than a series of old data points that only have power if you continue to broadcast them as your truth. The moment you choose a new state, You are literally, quantum mechanically, changing the probability space of your entire life. You are not fixing an old story, you are stepping into a new state that renders the old story irrelevant. This shift in identity requires you to understand the functional reality of your halo as it reaches full activation. It is not a decorative symbol or a reward for spiritual performance. It is a dynamic, high-frequency energy field that acts as the primary governor of your physical and emotional experience. Think of it as a sophisticated, frequency-based filtration system that determines what can and cannot reach you. When your halo is activated and coherent, it doesn't just attract better experiences, it becomes functionally untouchable by lower vibration chaos. There is no resonance for drama, fear, or scarcity in a high-frequency field. Those things may still exist in the world around you, vibrating in the fields of others, but they cannot find a landing place in your reality because there is no matching signal within you to anchor them. You have already started to notice this. Those moments when a situation that used to send you into a spiral of anxiety suddenly feels neutral. Or a person who used to drain your energy simply drifts out of your orbit without a single word of conflict. That wasn't luck. That was your halo becoming too coherent for that lower frequency to persist in your space. You are moving into a phase of your evolution where your frequency is your primary form of protection. You no longer need to fight the shadows, you simply need to stay in the light of your own high-frequency state. The struggle you once felt was the friction of trying to solve problems from the same frequency that created them. But as a navigator of the Absolute, you solve problems by outgrowing them. You shift the state, and the story changes as a consequence. To anchor this new identity, we must move into a physical activation, because the quantum field responds to the intelligence of the body just as much as the logic of the mind. I want you to place one hand on your chest right now, over your heart, not as a casual gesture but with the full weight of your intention. Feel the rhythmic pulse of your heartbeat beneath your palms. This heartbeat is not just a biological function, it is a broadcast. It is the most fundamental frequency your field is generating in this moment. Close your eyes for a second and breathe in a full, deliberate breath, drawing the air deep into your center. As you inhale, I want you to consciously breathe in pure, undifferentiated possibility. Do not name a specific outcome or a desired result. Simply breathe in the raw substance of the quantum field before it collapses into a single state. As you exhale, release one layer of the old certainty you have been gripping so tightly. Release one layer of the story that says you are not ready, that you are still broken, or that you need more time to heal. Feel the subtle tingling in your palms and the warmth spreading through your chest as you let go. That is your field reorganizing. That is your biophotons recalibrating to a higher octave of coherence. You are not imagining this sensation. You are witnessing the physical expression of a frequency upgrade. You are telling the field that the explorer is now aligned with the architect, and the signal you are broadcasting is one of total, unwavering readiness. This activation is not a one-time peak experience. It is the establishment of a new baseline. The quantum field responds to your average frequency, which means the most important work happens in the ordinary, quiet moments when no one is watching. The practice is not about sustaining a perfect peak. It is about the speed of your return. You will drift. You will find yourself slipping back into the lower frequencies of old habits or reactive thinking, and that is not a failure of your activation. It is simply a moment to practice the return to center. Every time you notice you have drifted and you consciously choose to return to your highest frequency, you are building the neural and energetic pathways of the Absolute. You are strengthening the floor of your new reality so that you can never fall back as far as you once did. The most powerful time to do this is in what I call the quantum window. Those few moments in the morning before your feet touch the floor, before you have decided how you feel and before the day has collapsed into its specific form. In that window of pure potential, you have the maximum leverage to choose the vibrational state from which you will observe your world. If you start your day by anchoring your frequency, You are setting the navigational coordinates for every probability that will meet you. You are no longer waiting for the day to happen to you. You are decreeing the frequency through which the day must pass. There is a profound trap in the old way of being that we must address. The addiction to control. Control is a low-frequency state born from the deep-seated fear that if you don't grip every detail tightly, everything will fall apart. But in the quantum field, release is the ultimate act of power. When you hold too tightly to how things must look or when they must arrive, you are prematurely collapsing the field and limiting the infinite intelligence to the tiny menu of what your old frequency could imagine. Letting go is not a passive act of giving up. It is a quantum act of releasing your grip on a specific, limited state so that the field can offer you the superposition of all possibilities again. It is the courage to stand in the space of not knowing, so that the field can deliver something that exceeds your current imagination. Free fall in the quantum field is not falling, it is flying. It is the state of maximum potential where all outcomes are available to you. As you learn to navigate from this space of release, you will find that the field's imagination is far more expansive than yours. It will provide the solutions in ways you could never have strategized. Your only job is to stay in the essence of the state, the feeling of the fulfillment, the frequency of the abundance, and the absolute certainty of your arrival. As you move forward into this new reality, recognize that the expansion you are feeling is often accompanied by a sense of discomfort. Even a tree must split its own bark as it grows wider, and a star must collapse inward before it shines with a new intensity. The tightness you feel at the edges of your old life is simply the sensation of outgrowing a version of yourself that can no longer contain the magnitude of what you are becoming. The field has been emptying your cup not to leave you thirsty, but because it is trying to pour something into you that your old frequency couldn't even recognize as valuable. The spilling and the loss you've experienced were never punishments. They were the necessary clearing for a frequency upgrade that is already in progress. You are being assembled for a reality that is larger than anything you have ever inhabited. Trust the assembly process.